Hello, class 7 students. How are you all? I hope all my students are absolutely fine. Now, what are we going to study from your textbook? So today, from your textbooks, we are going to be starting with the civics section. So in the previous class, we finished off with the history section. We're going to be starting with the civics section, which is chapter number 11. Now, we all know that India attained independence in the year 1947. On 15th August 1947, we attained independence, and that is why 15th August every year, of course, is celebrated as the Independence Day. Now, for so many years, British had ruled India. So in all these years, how were people governed? How were the policies made? It was all at the will of the British government or of the East India Company. So whatever rules and regulations were made, they were as per what the British government thought to be correct. Now, after being ruled for so many years by a foreign government, at the time of independence, there was some confusion, or there were a lot of questions that how India should be ruled. Who will make the rules? What are the kind of rules that we want? What what rules can be made that are going to ensure the welfare of all? So when all these questions came into the mind of the people who were into the political power or into the political arena, these people decided to have a constitution. So this chapter number 11, is about the Indian Constitution. So what exactly is the Indian Constitution? What are its features? What are the aspects of this Constitution? Let us find that out in chapter number 11. So first, I want all of you to open your textbooks to chapter number 11. So chapter number 11, which is on page number 106. What is the name of the chapter? The Constitution of India. And what are the key learning points in this chapter? First, the Constitution, its meaning. What exactly is a Constitution? Second, the role of the Constituent Assembly. So this constitution was formed by a constituent assembly. There were some people who were a part of this constituent assembly. Then we are going to talk about the preamble. The next topic, the fourth topic, is the nature of a state: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. So India is called as a, here state is referring to the entire country only. So India is considered to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic state. Then what are the other objectives of the Constitution? That is, which are related to justice, equality, fraternity, and liberty. We are going to be reading all about this in this particular chapter. All right, so let's move ahead. So I've told you something about India after independence. So now we talk about what is the meaning of the Constitution. So Constitution, what is it? It is basically a set of rules and regulations according to which the country is governed. It defines and determines the organization of the government and the powers exercised by the various organs of the government. What are the various organs? So there are three major organs of the government. That is legislature, executive, and judiciary, about which you will study probably in the higher classes. So first and foremost, we need to understand that Constitution is a set of rules and regulations based on which a country is to be ruled. Second, the Constitution also clearly mentions what is the what are going to be the powers as well as the functions of the organs of the government. So in case of India, the three organs: legislature, executive, and judicial. Correct? It also clearly indicates the limitations of the powers of different organs of the government. So it would just not say these are the powers. What are the limitations? To what extent can these powers be practiced? And it also lays down the rights and the duties of the citizens of India. So we're going to be studying about our fundamental rights and duties in the subsequent chapters. Correct? So this is about the meaning of the Indian Constitution. So what are the features of the Indian Constitution? Let's see that. So the features are, first of all, it is a written document. So any given, under any circumstances, constitution of across the world is always written. It is never verbal. Then it is this. These are the interesting features. Now we are going to talk about. It is the world's lengthiest constitution with 395 articles and 12 schedules. So it is the lengthiest in the world. And it is a detailed constitution dealing with all aspects of governance. So, you know, the constitution. So, for example, the constitution would talk about a particular right, then it explains what the right is, and then it will say that in this scenario, the right can be suspended. In this scenario, so basically every feature or every aspect that is given, every point that is given in the constitution, it is clearly explained. What is the meaning? What are the exceptions to it? What are the limitations to it? All of these are explained, and that is another reason it makes it that makes it the lengthiest constitution in the world, because it is very much detailed and it is partly flexible and partly rigid. So some aspects of the Indian Constitution can be changed with much of an argument or a procedure, but some features cannot be changed. All right. And another feature of the Indian Constitution is that it is taken from a lot of other countries. So one of the features of directive principle of state policy, which is given there in the Indian Constitution, we will find out that from which country has this feature been taken. We'll find that out. Okay. Now, the Constituent Assembly, talking about it, it was the body which framed our constitution, like I already told. When was it formed? In 1946, according to the proposal of the cabinet mission, which was sent by the British. Now, it consisted of important leaders and represented all communities and political parties of India. So the Constituent Assembly was made in such a way that a biased decision should not be taken. That is, all the classes or all the sections of the country should have a representation, or most of the sections of the country should have a chance of representation. As the assembly represented the whole of India, it was called as Mini India. Now, these are some of the members that are shown here, of the members of the Constituent Assembly. So here we can see Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So he was the head of the Provincial Constitution Committee, Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribals and Excluded Areas, and later he became the first Deputy Prime Minister and the Home Minister of India. Then Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was also a part of the Constituent Assembly. In fact, he was the head of the Union Constitution Committee, State Committee and Union Pass Committee, and later he became the first Prime Minister of India. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he was the president of the Constituent Assembly, Rules of Procedure Committee and Steering Committee, and later became the first president of India. So Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he became the first president of India. And then Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. He had a very important role in the Indian Constitution because he was the chairman of the drafting committee. So what is a drafting committee? That prepares a draft, like a kind of a, you can say a rough sketch that was prepared of the Constitution. So he was heading that committee, the drafting committee, and later held the position of law minister. And because of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the interest of the backward classes was kept into a lot of consideration. Now, in your book, you will find some more members of the Constituent Assembly. So let's read about them. Okay. So this is talking about the drafting committee. So you can see, so this is Dr. Rajendra Prasad. We've already spoken about him. Second is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and third is Maulana Azad Kalam and Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, sorry, and fourth is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Okay, and the drafting committee. So the Constituent Assembly on 29th August 1947, it appointed a drafting committee. Remember these dates and years. 29th August 1947, drafting committee was appointed. Why? To prepare a draft of the constitution. And who were the members? So there were 8 members. First was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. We already read. He was the chairman of the drafting committee. And other eminent members were Shri K.M. Munshi, Syed Muhammad Sadullah, Shri N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, and the like. Correct? So while the constitution was being drafted and then it was prepared, when was it adopted and when did it come into practice? We are going to read about this. So some other important dates. So 29th August 1947, the drafting committee comes into existence, and after the constitution was prepared on 26th November 1950, the constitution was, 26th November 1949, the constitution was adopted, and after 2 years and 11 months and 17 days, it took almost that much amount of time to adopt the constitution. So 29th August 1947, drafting committee, and 26th November 1947, the constitution was adopted. Now, after it was adopted, it had to be enforced, as in it had to be brought into practice. When did that happen? That happened on 26th January 1950, and this date, 26th January, is also celebrated as the Republic Day. Okay, so these 3 important dates you need to remember. Correct? Now, we are going to talk about the preamble. What exactly is this feature of the Constitution? Preamble. Okay. So when I talk about the preamble, it is basically like an introduction to the Constitution, or the introductory statement of the Constitution. So introductory statement to the Constitution, it acts as a preface and lays down the fundamental values. The preamble is considered as the soul of the Constitution. Why? So now this is how the preamble of the Constitution looks like. It says, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens justice. What forms of justice? Social, economic, and political. Then liberty of thought, expression, and belief, faith, and worship. Equality in all aspects. Fraternity, that is about brotherhood. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day, November of 1949, do hereby adopt and enact the Constitution. So basically, if you look at this preamble, it talks about India being a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic state. Correct? So, like I told you that it was adopted on 26th November 1949, which is also mentioned 26th November of 1949, which is also mentioned in the preamble. Correct? See, it says that the Constituent Assembly on 26th November 1949 adopts this Constitution. But please don't get confused. It came into force on 26th January 1950. 26th November 1949 it was enforced, and 26th November 1949 it was adopted. 26th November 1949 adopted, and 26th January 1950 it was enforced. Don't get, see, dates are the same. 26 and 26, November 1949, it was adopted. And January 1950, almost a month later. So November 1949, it was adopted, and January 1950, it was enforced. Dates are the same, 26 and 26. So dates, you don't have to remember that number as such. Correct? I mean, you have to, of course, from exam point of view. Okay, so the preamble clearly states this date when it was adopted. 26 November 1949. Okay, now it says that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic state. Now, what is the meaning of these terms is what we are going to study from your text. Okay. So what is the meaning of the word sovereign? It means it is a state in which is both internally and externally free from any external interference. So no other foreign country or nation can rule upon us. Okay, internally free means that the country is free to formulate its internal policies and laws. So it cannot be influenced, or it cannot be, binded upon. No other foreign nation can bind its laws on us. India as a sovereign state is free to make policies for its country. And externally means the country can itself frame its foreign policy. So we can have laws for within the country and for foreign nations. As in, how are we going to deal with the foreign nations? We have the right to make laws on that. Socialists, talking about social and economic equality. So when we talk about social equality, that means there cannot be discrimination of any kind: caste, creed, religion, region, community, gender, race, color. There cannot be any kind of discrimination. And when we talk about economic equality, here we mean that we are going to have a concept like, we have this concept of equal pay for equal work. So we cannot discriminate someone. So I say that, okay, because you belong to a particular community, you will be paid less. No, that is hampering the social and economic equality. So a socialist state is a state which basically establishes social as well as economic equality. And the word, it was added by the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. The government aims at bringing about fair distribution of wealth to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. So it should not be like that the rich is becoming richer and the poor is becoming poorer. Secular. So in the history chapters, we've discussed this term. In simple words, secular meaning no discrimination on the basis of religion. So our constitution says this: Sarva Dharma Sambhav, meaning all religions are equal. So there cannot be any discrimination on the basis of religion. Then we talk about democratic, that is, we have a government which is accountable, which is legitimate and responsive. So it is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Correct? Then you have, of course, the formation of the level of government: union government, state government, and local government. And republic. Republic is a form of government where the head of the state is elected. And why India is a republic? Because the president, who is the head of the state, is elected for a period of 5 years. So it's not a permanent position or a hereditary position. And after the completion of 5 years, the election will be held. Now we talk about the objective. So first is justice, that is all citizens, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, region, gender, community, any of these aspects. Irrespective of these aspects, all people are equal in the eyes of law. It's not like that you are rich, so the law will exempt you from a crime. Everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Liberty, talking about personal freedom. So one aspect of freedom are the fundamental rights, which we are going to read in the coming, about which we are going to read in the coming chapters. And every Indian has the freedom of movement, freedom of expression, of practicing religion, correct? Faith and worship. All right, then we talk about equality. I've spoken about this a lot. No discrimination of any kind. And fraternity, talking about promoting universal brotherhood of mankind. India is a land where you have diversity, various diversity. So they say that after every few kilometers, the language also changes. Correct. So there is linguistic diversity, there's cultural diversity, there is social diversity. So diversity in its various forms, ethnic diversity. So considering all of this, it is important to have feelings of universal brotherhood. And the constitution of a country defines the guidelines with the different organs of the government should function. In all democratic countries, constitution is a vital document according to which the government functions. So this is a short story of the constitution. In in higher classes and even in the remaining chapters, we are going to talk about some other aspects of the constitution. Correct? So I hope all of you enjoyed this chapter, and we are going to meet in the next class. Till then, bye bye.